Day 2 of Sean Diddy Combs' federal trial explodes as Cassie Ventura's devastating testimony threatens to obliterate his legacy as a music titan. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for exclusive updates on this seismic case. The federal trial of Sean Diddy Combs, once celebrated as a hip-hop visionary and business mogul, erupted into a firestorm on its second day as Cassie Ventura, his former girlfriend, and a central witness, delivered a testimony that dismantled the myth of an untouchable icon. Ventura's words, raw and unrelenting, exposed a chilling narrative of alleged control, manipulation, and violence shaking the foundations of Combs' empire. Entering the courtroom visibly pregnant, dressed in a form-fitting brown dress, Ventura radiated resolve, avoiding eye contact with Combs. Her testimony, set to address a 2016 hotel video capturing Combs attacking her, promised to unveil the truth behind their decade-long relationship, threatening to rewrite his place in history. Ventura's account was a harrowing chronicle of a relationship defined by fear, coercion, and betrayal. She described how Combs exerted total control over her life, dictating her clothing, the lighting in rooms during intimate encounters, and her interactions with others in what she termed freak-offs. These disturbing events, introduced by Combs about a year into their relationship, centered on voyeurism, with Combs orchestrating scenarios where Ventura was directed to engage with others while he observed. At 21 or 22, young and naive, Ventura testified she complied to please Combs, whom she loved and saw as her path to stardom. She had signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs' label, with dreams of becoming a music star. Instead, she said the freak-offs left her feeling degraded, her initial compliance driven by a desire to secure Combs' affection and professional support. She continued only because she felt trapped, fearing severe consequences, professional ruin, personal retaliation, or worse if she refused. When prosecutors asked if she ever enjoyed the freak-offs, Ventura's composure shattered. Tears streamed as she admitted she sometimes did, but only because they offered rare moments of one-on-one time with Combs, a man she genuinely loved. This confession exposed the alleged psychological manipulation she endured, a layer of control that compounded the physical abuse. Ventura recounted to jurors how Combs would bash her head, knock her to the ground, drag her across floors, kick her, and stomp her head when she was defenseless. Each incident, she said, was a calculated display of power designed to remind her of her vulnerability. The freak-offs, often involving hired escorts and performed under Combs' meticulous direction, became so frequent that arranging them felt like a mandatory task, stripping away her autonomy. Ventura testified she feared blackmail or retaliation if she resisted, leaving her with no real choice but to comply. Her voice quavered as she described the emotional toll her youth and inexperience exploited by a man whose influence dwarfed her own. She spoke of sleepless nights, self-doubt, and a growing sense of entrapment, her dreams of music stardom morphing into a nightmare of control. Combs, who has pleaded not guilty, sat at the defense table, his initial confidence eroding with each word Ventura spoke. His legal team argued the 2016 hotel video reflected jealousy, not evidence of sex trafficking, but Ventura's testimony painted a broader, more sinister picture of coercion. She recalled meeting Combs at 19, a young model with music aspirations, while he was a millionaire industry giant with connections spanning entertainment, fashion, and media. The power imbalance was immediate and overwhelming, setting the stage for a relationship where Ventura felt powerless. Combs allegedly demanded constant updates on her whereabouts, appearing unannounced when she socialized with friends, his presence a silent warning. He threatened to shelve her music career if she defied him, a threat that carried weight given his control over Bad Boy Entertainment. Ventura claimed he installed tracking software on her phone, calling her minutes after she arrived at a location, his voice calm but menacing. This surveillance, she said, was relentless, eroding her sense of freedom. Combs systematically isolated her from friends who might encourage independence, severing her support network until he became her sole anchor, a dynamic that deepened her entrapment and made escape seem impossible. The courtroom fell silent as Ventura unveiled a trove of text messages and emails projected onto a large screen for all to see. Combs' face registered shock. He was unaware she had preserved these records, meticulously stored in multiple locations to prevent tampering. The messages included his alleged apologies for violent outbursts such as, "I'm sorry about last night. You know how I get when I drink. It won't happen again." Others contained threats to ruin her career if she spoke out, with one stating, "You tell anyone and your music is done." Most damning were offers to buy her silence, including a new car, an apartment, or a $2 million deal to avoid discussing their past 5 years. These messages directly contradicted Combs's public claims that no one had witnessed his behavior, undermining years of carefully crafted denials. Even more devastating were texts from high-profile celebrities, including a major rapper, a female pop star, and a longtime producer who had observed Combs's actions at private events, backstage at concerts, exclusive parties, and studio sessions, and reached out to Ventura with concern. The rapper offered her a safe place after a Grammy after-party, texting, "You okay? What I saw tonight wasn't right. You can stay at my place if you need to." The pop star urged her to call writing. "I've known him for 15 years and I've never seen him act like that with anyone else. This isn't normal." The producer, after witnessing a studio incident, texted, "I can't be around this anymore. I told him to get help. Call me when you're safe." Combs' legal team objected, labeling the messages hearsay and arguing they were not properly submitted, but the judge overruled, deeming them critical to the case. Combs slumped his head in his hands as the ruling landed like a blow. Ventura's testimony escalated as she detailed a series of physical assaults that left jurors visibly shaken. She described being thrown against walls during arguments, her body slamming into surfaces with force that left bruises for weeks. She recounted an incident where Combs pushed her down a flight of stairs in a Miami rental house, her screams unanswered as she tumbled. Most harrowing were multiple occasions where he allegedly choked her until she nearly lost consciousness, his hands tightening around her throat as she gasped for air, only stopping when she went limp. Ventura's voice broke as she described the terror of those moments, the realization that her life hung in the balance. Jurors reacted with raw emotion. One older woman wiped tears, her hands trembling. A male juror averted his gaze, unable to meet Combs's eyes, and several shifted uncomfortably, their faces etched with dismay. One juror, a middle-aged woman, scribbled notes furiously, her pen moving as if to capture every word. The intensity of Ventura's account, delivered with quiet strength, held the courtroom in a vice grip, each detail amplifying the gravity of her allegations. The testimony reached a crescendo with Ventura's account of a previously undisclosed incident at the Four Seasons Hotel, a revelation that stunned even seasoned court observers. She said an industry after-party turned violent when Combs, enraged by her speaking to another music executive, grabbed her arm with such force it left marks. He whispered threats in her ear, his voice low and chilling while maintaining a public smile for onlookers. He then dragged her, crying and struggling, through the hotel lobby to the elevators, her pleas ignored by passers-by. Hotel security approached, drawn by the commotion, but retreated upon recognizing Combs, asking only him if everything was okay. Ventura testified that he responded with a curt yes, and the guard walked away without addressing her, leaving her alone with her abuser. In the hotel room, Combs' rage exploded. Ventura said he threw a champagne bottle at her head, missing by inches, the glass shattering against the wall. He destroyed the room, breaking a lamp, flipping a table, and punching a hole in the bathroom door. Most disturbingly, she claimed he held her captive for over 48 hours, confiscating her phone and threatening dire consequences if she sought help. Ventura's voice trembled as she recounted, begging to leave, only to be met with cold indifference. Ventura presented photos she took the next morning, showing bruises on her arms, a split lip, and redness around her neck. The shaky mirror selfie images, taken because she feared no one would believe her against Combs' influence, stunned jurors. One covered her mouth in shock, two looked away, and another wrote frantically, her hand trembling. Combs' legal team, unprepared for this evidence, scrambled to block the photos, arguing they were not authenticated and should have been submitted earlier. The judge dismissed their objections, allowing the images to be displayed, a decision that intensified the defense's panic. Ventura's foresight in preserving this evidence, hidden for years out of fear, underscored her determination to one day speak her truth, a resolve that now reverberated through the courtroom. Combs' reactions became the trial's defining moment, a spectacle that overshadowed even Ventura's testimony. He entered with a billionaire's swagger, flanked by a team of elite lawyers nodding confidently to court staff. Within 30 minutes of Ventura's testimony, that facade collapsed. Witnesses noted his face drained of color, his eyes wide with disbelief. He fidgeted incessantly, first with his tie, then his cufflinks, then his hands, unable to find calm. He scribbled notes, frantically passing them to his lawyers at such a pace that one attorney signaled him to slow down. Observers described him as looking physically ill, closing his eyes as if to shut out Ventura's words. When she described an incident at his Hamptons house, Combs slammed the table, the sound echoing like a gunshot. The judge warned he could be removed if he continued her tone sharp. Combs shook his head, mouthing, "That is not true," a damaging claim seemingly unaware of the jury's scrutiny. His lawyers, visibly strained, placed hands on his arm to calm him, but their efforts faltered. The most explosive moment came when Ventura played audio recordings of Combs allegedly threatening her family if she spoke out. The courtroom froze as his voice, unmistakable and menacing, filled the space. Combs leapt from his chair, shouting, "You know that is not how it happened," his voice raw with desperation. 3 lawyers physically restrained him, their faces taut with alarm as he tried to speak over the recording. The judge called an immediate recess, but the damage was irreversible. Jurors, reporters, and officials witnessed a man whose untouchable image had shattered his loss of control, a stark contrast to the composed mogul who had walked in that morning. The outburst, replayed in news reports, became the trial's iconic moment, a symbol of Combs' unraveling. Ventura's testimony continued, weaving a broader narrative of control. She named Combs' associates, including his former chief of staff, driver, security personnel, and financial handler, detailing their roles in what prosecutors allege was a criminal enterprise built around Combs' desires. She provided 7 photos of these individuals, identifying their functions: security ensuring privacy, drivers facilitating movements, and staff handling payments for escorts. These details tied her experiences to the prosecution's case, painting Combs as the architect of a systematic operation. Ventura's knowledge of this network, gained from years in Combs' orbit, lent credibility to her claims, forcing the defense to confront a web of complicity. The defense argued Ventura's participation was consensual, driven by her ambition to launch a music career. They highlighted her initial excitement in their first record deal, portraying Combs as a mentor who elevated her profile. Without him, they claimed she would not have achieved her current status. They pointed to moments where Ventura expressed enjoyment in the freak-offs, attempting to frame her as a willing participant who benefited from the relationship. This strategy aimed to cast doubt on her credibility, suggesting she was motivated by fame or revenge. Prosecutors countered that Combs exploited her youth and dreams, seizing control of her life and career from the outset. Ventura's emotional testimony, particularly her breakdown over the freak-offs, underscored her lack of agency. She described feeling dirty after the first freak-off, wanting to stop but fearing Combs' reaction. In a 2010 email shown to jurors, she raised concerns about the freak-offs, but backpedaled when Combs responded dismissively, a pattern she said reflected her fear of confrontation. Now nearly 40, Ventura presented herself as transformed, reflecting on a naive past where she took drugs and tried to please Combs, believing he cared. Her soft-spoken delivery, punctuated by moments of raw emotion, captivated jurors who remained laser-focused, some taking extensive notes. Ventura's testimony carried profound weight beyond the courtroom, igniting a cultural and social reckoning. News of her allegations spread rapidly, dominating social media, news outlets, and public discourse. Hashtags like Justice for Cassie and Diddy Exposed trended globally, amassing millions of posts. A music journalist tweeted, "Cassie's testimony isn't just about Diddy. It's a wake-up call for an industry that's shielded powerful men for too long." A lifelong Bad Boy fan wrote, "I grew up on his music, but I can't unhear her story. This changes everything." Radio shows overflowed with callers, some defending Combs' contributions to hip-hop, his role in launching careers like Notorious B.I.G. and Mary J. Blige, others condemning the alleged abuse as a betrayal of his influence. The public's reaction mirrored the trial's emotional intensity, with Ventura's courage sparking broader conversations about accountability, power dynamics, and systemic issues in the entertainment industry. Combs' legacy, built on Bad Boy Entertainment, fashion brands like Sean John Ciroc Vodka, and media ventures like Revolt TV, teetered on the brink of collapse. The man who redefined hip-hop as a business empire now faced a reckoning that could erase his place in history. Industry insiders whispered about the fallout, with artists and producers distancing themselves. A prominent rapper canceled a planned Bad Boy tribute at an upcoming awards show, citing the trial's revelations. A major streaming platform pulled a documentary celebrating Combs' career, replacing it with a panel discussion on abuse in music. Magazines that once lauded his acumen ran exposés questioning how his behavior went unchecked for decades. The contrast between his polished public image, custom suits, eloquent interviews, red carpet charm, and Ventura's allegations shocked observers who saw the trial as a potential turning point for how power is wielded in entertainment. Ventura's personal evolution added depth to her testimony, humanizing her struggle. She spoke of her younger self starstruck and eager, unaware of the cost of Combs' promises. She described signing her 10-album deal with hope, envisioning a future as a music star, only to learn it came with strings. Her use of pop-pop for Combs and his nickname, Cassie Combs, revealed an intimacy that made her manipulation more poignant. When asked why she stayed, Ventura paused, her voice cracking, and said, "I was young, I was naive, and I thought he loved me. I didn't know how to leave." She described moments of self-blame, wondering if she could have escaped sooner, and the gradual realization that Combs' affection was conditional on her compliance. Her honesty resonated with jurors visibly moved. One older woman nodded empathetically, as if recognizing the weight of such entrapment. Another juror, a younger man, leaned forward, his expression a mix of shock and sympathy. The prosecution leaned heavily on Ventura's account to argue Combs operated a criminal enterprise, using his empire to exploit and control. Her detailed recollections, backed by texts, photos, and recordings, made her a formidable witness, her credibility bolstered by her emotional authenticity. They presented her as a survivor who had meticulously gathered evidence, knowing the odds of being believed against a titan like Combs. The defense, struggling to counter, suggested Ventura exaggerated her claims for fame or revenge, pointing to moments where she expressed enjoyment in the freak-offs to frame her as a willing participant. They emphasized her career gains, arguing she used Combs' platform to build her name. Ventura's response was resolute. "I did what I had to do to survive. I didn't have a choice." Her words silenced the room, reinforcing her narrative of coercion and resonating with jurors who scribbled notes with renewed intensity. The trial's broader implications emerged as Ventura named other figures like producer Dallas Austin, a friend who may testify later, and referenced photos of celebrities like Kanye West, Kid Cudi, and Lauren London shown to jurors. These names raised questions about their roles, though their involvement remained unclear, adding intrigue to the prosecution's strategy. The prosecution's focus on Combs' inner circle, his former chief of staff, security team, and financial handlers, suggested a network of enablers, strengthening their case for a criminal enterprise. Ventura's ability to name these individuals and detail their functions, from arranging payments to ensuring privacy, painted Combs as a calculated orchestrator, not a mere participant in isolated incidents. The defense, caught off guard by this web of connections, scrambled to reframe Ventura's story, but her evidence made their task formidable. As day 2 concluded, Combs' entourage, initially a show of loyalty, slipped out quietly as the evidence piled up. The man who entered as a music icon left defeated, his security team powerless against the courtroom's truce. Ventura's testimony, backed by irrefutable proof and delivered with quiet strength, painted a picture no one could ignore. The question is no longer whether Combs can win this case, but whether his reputation, empire, and legacy can survive the cataclysmic fallout of what the world witnessed. This trial, already a landmark in music history, promises to reshape how we view power, accountability, and justice in an industry long overdue for change. Like, share, and subscribe to stay immersed in every twist of this explosive trial. Comment your thoughts, reactions, or predictions below, and join us as we uncover the next chapter in this monumental battle for truth and justice.